Hi everybody, this is Susan with Pumpkin Hill Stampers. I have a Stampin' Show and Tell for you today. As you can see, we're going to be playing with a sketch provided by the Sketch blog. So there was their challenge. I'm going to be coupling the Falling Flowers stamp set with the Mayflower dies, and then I'm also using the Congrats die from the Sunshine Wishes. Now, coupling with that, the Global Design Project has a color challenge for Fresh Fig, Grapefruit Grove, and Mint Macaroon. So those are the three colors I used for my card here. Okay, so let me go ahead and get started showing you how I put this together. I've done all the big shot work ahead of time. One, so the table doesn't shake, and two, to save us a little bit of time. So I'm just using a standard thick white half sheet of cardstock. I did score that at 5.5, and that's going to be my card base. Okay, and then I've die cut, I've stamped in Mint Macaroon, on Mint Macaroon, two of these fun little bobby kind of flowers. I have stamped in Grapefruit Grove on white, 3 of these flowers, and die cut those. And I've also stamped with the Fresh Fig and die cut 4 of these little fun daisy type flowers. Okay, so there's all our die cutting. I also die cut from Fresh Fig the word Congrats. So there are our die cuts to be done. So now we're just going to do some fun stamping and coloring, and we're going to put it all together. Okay, so I'm going to start by stamping the vine image on my card in the Mint Macaroon. And I'm just having this peek kind of to the side of that main image. So I'm just having that stamped on there. Okay. Now from there I'm going to add these 3 flowers, because in the sketch it had 3 circles going down. So I'm going to add these 3 flowers. But I decided I didn't really like them white, so I decided to use my blender pen and my stamp pad and color them. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have Stampin' Write markers. We have this new Stampin' Blends, right? And then we also have our good old reliable blender pens. Okay, now the blender pens are clear, and what you do is you pick up ink from the lid of your ink pad, and I just squeeze that, or you can drop some ink on there from your reinker. Okay, and what I'm going to do is pick up some color with the end of my blender pen. I'm going to shade in my image. So maybe I should zoom in for you guys to see this up close a little bit. Sure, I'm going to be in the shot when I zoom in. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up some ink off my ink pad here, and when I first pick it up, it's going to be super dark on my pen. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in the center of my image, and I'm going to lightly color, and I'm going right over the stamped line. I'm lightly coloring from the inside to the outside. And as I go, the color fades. Okay, so wherever you want the darkest ink or the darkest shadow of your ink to be is where you start, and then you blend away from that. Another way to do this is when you first stamp the image, if your ink is nice and juicy, you can just use the blender pen to smooth that color around on your image to color it in. So with this kind of technique versus the markers, you get a lighter color. So I'm stamped and coloring in the Grapefruit Grove color, and I'm not losing the detail of my stamped image. You see what I mean? And if I want more color in any one particular place, I can just go back and add more over the top. So it's not quite as fluid as watercoloring with the aqua brush. It's a little more dry and controlled because your blender pen is really just a marker tip picking up ink and transferring it. So there's one. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do these other two. And try to stay inside my lines. And see, as I work around, I can just pull some of that color over. And because I'm not really worried about staying inside the lines of my image, because it's all going to be the same color, I can work pretty quickly and just move the ink around on my image. So it's kind of a fun technique. This is one of the first things I purchased when I first went to a Stampin' Up! Party, were these blender pens, because I really liked color, as many of you know now from watching a lot of my videos or stamping with me. If I can do a project where we color something with markers or blends or blendabilities, or the Stampin' Write markers, we tend to do it. So today I decided to play with the blender pens. Alright, so there's two. One more to go. So I don't know what kind of flower this is supposed to be. It kind of looks like maybe a pansy. So you really could use this flower with lots of different colors. I guess different parts of the country maybe have different colors that they tend to go to. But this worked for me today, so. So as far as this color challenge goes, the Fresh Fig, the Grapefruit Grove, and the Mint Macaroon, a lot of times, as with color challenges, when I first saw it I thought, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I can work with those three colors together. There was a bit of a stretch for me. Then I thought, no, I said I was going to try these, so I'm going to try them. Right? Somebody thinks it's a good idea to put those colors together. And so I just put them on my table and I pulled out the stamps that I decided to use, and I decided, how am I going to use them? And this is the project I came up with, which surprisingly I'm very happy with. Okay, so there is the coloring for those flowers. So let me zoom back up now and get the whole thing back in here. So with your blender pen too, once you've colored with it, then you just rub it out on your mess mat until it's clear, and even though it's dyed a little bit, you can pick up the next color, no problem, and use it again. So that's one of the great things about blender pens I really like. Okay, so we've got that done. So let's bring our card back in. Let's put some of these elements on our creation. So these first three big flowers I'm putting on dimensionals. That way I can layer them over each other, but I can also work the other elements and die cuts in behind them a little bit for spacing. So I'm just going to take the first one, put it up here. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Then I'm going to bring in my congrats next, and I'm going to use my fine tip glue. And I'm going to just put some adhesive on the back of my letters here. Not too much, I don't want it to squirt out when I press it down, but I want to put enough on there because I am going to be layering it from the card over that flower in the center. So I want to make sure I have enough adhesive so it doesn't pop up. Okay, so there's my adhesive on that. I'm just going to place this down right over those flowers. So it's kind of like a ribbon, but it's a word, if you want to think of it that way. So I'm just going to press those down. so it adheres. Okay, so now I have that down. The next thing I'm going to do is pick up these flowers on some glue dots. So I just make them stickers. See, I just stick them right on my roll of glue dots here. And then these guys, they're perfect shapes to just stick a glue dot behind each of those little bulbs. So there's one. Here's the second one. Okay, so first I'm going to put these on. So like I said, I popped up the orange flowers so that I could slide these stems kind of underneath and play with them that way. So there's one. I'll put another one up here on the top, just kind of balance out the shapes and the colors. Alright, and then I'm going to bring in my 4 fresh fig flowers. I'm going to add these, and now remember these are just on glue dots, but they'll go right down, no worries. Now the next thing I decided to do with my fresh fig is I wanted to add some color to the center of those, pansy flowers like we talked about. So I'm going to take my fresh fig, give it a squeeze, open it up. So that's how I transfer that ink. I'm going to bring my blender pen back in, and I'm going to pick this up, and then I'm just going to color in those spots at the center of the flower. So I'm not really blending, I'm really just using the blender pen as a marker right now. So if you have ink pads but don't have the markers, you could buy the blender pens and really you'd have all the markers that you have ink pads. Just use your blender pen and pick up the ink to transfer it. So that might be something you want to consider when you're adding tools and supplies. And see, I just rub that out until it runs clear again. Okay. Now one more thing I did with my fine tip glue, which is why I didn't close it, is I came back and I just dropped a little bit of glue on each of those. We used to do this with Crystal Effects, and then you gotta let it dry, but you can do it with your fine tip glue. And when it dries, it'll just look like these little polka dots are beaded up a little bit. So not as strong as maybe using pearls or rhinestones, but a little extra embellishment. Alright, so let me put my pin back in the neck of that fine tip glue so it doesn't dry up on me. Okay, so there is the front of our card. Now I'm going to show you, but I'm not going to stamp it right now because that's wet, and if I flip it over it'll spread. I did stamp on the inside. I added one more of the Grapefruit Grove flower. I put 2 of those mint macaroon stripes and some of those purple flowers in there, and then I also stamped on the envelope. I did some of the vine, I added some purple, and then I did stamp the flower and used my blender pen again to add some color there. So there is the project. Now, does anybody notice a difference between the sample and then the one I just put together? Ready? It's very, very subtle, very subtle difference. So when I sat down to make the video and I was making sure that I had all my things right for the different challenges, and I'm like, okay, fresh fig, Grapefruit Grove, mint macaroon, and I looked down and I didn't have fresh fig sitting on my table, I had rich raspberry. So the first one I made is actually with rich raspberry as my purple, and this one is with the fresh fig, and they're different but very close. So the rich raspberry is brighter, where the fresh fig is a little more muted to go with those 2 colors. So you'll probably be able to see that better in the photos that I will put on the Show and Tell News next week with the PDF, and I will also put the links to the 2 different blog posts that I'm going to share these on. So you guys can check out all the other creations that they came up with these colors and with this sketch. Alright guys, so if you haven't subscribed to the Show and Tell News, you can do that below. And I love thumbs up and comments always, let me know you appreciate what I'm doing, or if you have any questions, ask. I'm more than happy to answer your questions. All right, everybody, have a great week. I'll see you again on Wednesday. Happy stamping. Bye-bye.